Hey everyone, happy to be here. Thanks for joining me today in the community. Hey everybody playing the home game, it's good to see you too. Hey Mike Warner, Ken, thanks for having me. Hey, everybody. So I've got just a few minutes here today to talk about a very, very large topic, pain. We all experience it, we've all had a relationship with it. And yeah, that statement, pain is a liar, came into my life very recently through my dear friend David Thunder, who has actually helped me learn tremendous bit about learning how to resolve pain in my life in the physical standpoint. Many other people played roles and seasons in time in my life to help with the other matters, spiritual, emotional, and mental pains that I've had too. We've all had pains on those levels, and we all will have ongoing moments to experience pain in our lives. And so there's many shifts I want to talk about today, but the most critical one is really just a shift in our motivational foundation, right? You've all heard everything I say today, you probably heard on some level before. So maybe today serves as a reminder for you. And maybe there's an insight today that you get that just helps you with something today. My belief is that in every day, so today, there is an upgrade available for each of us today. And it's a passion of mine to have that spark happen where each of us can have that shift in awareness and understanding. Maybe it's shedding a story. Maybe it's learning about a tool that we can go study and then learn how to integrate and apply in our lives that can help us develop our identity in a new way, where we can take control of a piece of our pain, because it's all about choice. We have agency in our lives. We have all this potential, and God gave us agency to do something with it. So the fundamental foundation is from a purpose-driven foundation where we're running towards something, or from that pain foundation where we're running away from something. And so, like I said, I only have a few minutes to talk about this huge topic. So I wrote down some notes so I wouldn't get too off topic here. So again, everyone has an upgrade available to you today. There's some area, whether in our self-care, how we show up in our relationships, act, think, and move in this world, or in our salience, our connection to our goals and our outcomes, our purpose-driven outcomes. And this is to name just a few areas. We also, each of us, have moments of pain, whether it's a brief acute pain. And for me, acute pain looked like my back would go out. I'd have a spasm, and I'd be unavailable for living a certain kind of lifestyle because of that pain, for, you know, whether it was for a few hours or for a few days or a few weeks. That would be an acute sciatic pain or otherwise. But there was also acute emotional pain, where there would be a spike in, I wouldn't feel good about myself, a low sense of self-worth, underlying identities that I had for myself and stories I told myself about the world. And so acute pain might be a triggered moment, and I would shy away from living life at the level I wanted to, because I didn't feel like I could. There's also moments of chronic pain, where the more normalized ongoing pain that we kind of limp along with, and we have compensations that help us get through, but we work around them. They become things that we navigate and negotiate and compromise around, as opposed to resolving, moving through, and facing. And often that's because we don't have certain tools in our lives, and those tools come hopefully to us at one point or another. So I'm going to kind of go at the 30,000 foot view for a bit, and then we'll drop through what I found as a model of understanding, because there is a bridge between these two. It's not just like a magical thing happens and we go from pain to purpose. There's a bridge, and it's identifiable and it's repeatable. And I discovered, with the help of many people, what my bridge was. I'm going to offer my bridge to you in hopes that you can take something with it into your life today. So again, God gave us all potential and free agency of what we do with it. Pain can be a launching pad towards our goals, or it can be a gatekeeper. It's just a few shifts that we have to make within ourselves to see that, make that happen. So the model is pain, we live over here, and there's a certain pattern that we run. And we hit a certain trigger point, and we have an opportunity. It's a healing crisis. And when the moments are right and we are ready, the healing crisis, maybe a person comes into our lives at a right moment and helps us turn that, what would have been the on-ramp, back into the loop again. The healing crisis becomes a catalyst. But there's something that happens in that. It's a glass ceiling moment where we hit up against this hunger for something, because when we're living in pain, it's not just a moment of pain, but it's all the things that we have to do without because of that pain, or the things that we think we have to live with because of that pain on any level. Let me hit a catalyst, the glass ceiling moment where we can break through. And there's a new awareness, we glimpse something. A new possibility just dawns into our vision for a moment. And it gets in, it gets through the barriers, and we glimpse the reality of what's possible for ourselves. And we might have done this many times, but there's a moment where we finally go, you know what? I don't want to let that go anymore. I don't want to go back to that loop. I'm done with that. I know where that goes. I want to go somewhere new. And it's scary, and it's intimidating, and it can shake our whole foundation, because indeed that's what it's there to do. And then, so when we have that breakthrough moment, we begin to move across the bridge. And there's 4 things I like to think of on that bridge. There's salience. The salience is connection to your outcome, mindful awareness of what are we doing and why. And that's a big question. What are we doing and why? So I'm going to take that to my life. What was I doing? I was trying to be active, trying to work, trying to make money, and I was hitting up against physical barriers. Underneath those physical barriers were emotional and mental traumas I faced as a kid that I hadn't yet fully looked at and resolved. And people came into my life when I was ready to finally say, you know what, I've had enough of this. It was 2010. It was the end of a very bad marriage. And I finally made that decisive line in the sand moment saying, I'm not having that anymore. I want a better life for myself and for my stepdaughter. If you're going to be part of it, you got to cross this line. If not, there's no place for you here. And she left. And that was a wonderful moment. And it opened up a lot of pain. A lot of things began to shift then. And that was 2010. That was my big glass ceiling moment where I catalyzed. And I said, no, I'm not having this anymore. I don't know what I can have, but I know it's not this. And so we enter that journey, that dark night of the soul. There's so many pieces to that bridge, but we need salience. I needed to know and stay present with, I'm not going back to that. I glimpsed something better for myself. And I don't know what or when or how, but I'm going to go that way. And so my salience was moments, and I got better. That's a muscle. Living off of autopilot is a muscle, because we protect ourselves, and we're so stuck. We can become so entrenched in certain patterns of behavior that we can't just rip them all off at once. That's too much. There's too much change too fast. We have to be able to track and integrate change. So salience helps us stay present with the change as we make it, as well as being present with the pain that shows up in our lives to inform and challenge us. The second piece is curiosity. Curiosity lets us look at something distasteful to us without taking it personally. We can remove ourselves one step and ask some questions, some really good, curious, and intelligent questions. We get to engage our imagination as we face our pain. So it no longer becomes a patent story that we just run. Oh, okay, trigger, response. Now it's trigger, what's going on? What's that about? What else might that mean? And it's looking at all the stories and the triggers and things and kind of catching them and going, take a picture of that, take a picture of that, and begin to study ourselves. So curiosity helps us do that. It's a shift. It's a state of being shift. Another piece is that leads to discovery. And discovery is where we live an active, ongoing conversation. We go into a period of what David Thunder calls feedback into just. It's the term he gave to me many years ago. And it's a really great reframe, because in my life, I'm very impatient, and I want change to happen now, and I want to go faster and faster and faster, and I want to get there, and I don't want to deal with inconveniences and little pushbacks, and all those moments where we have to let the moment settle in. I just want to get there. Next. And so discovery became a feedback adjust. For me, it really hit home as I can continually play within my life. So now it's not a series of setbacks and things I have to deal with on the way to getting over here. Now they're stepping stones, and I get to actively engage each and every single one of them. So now they're not energies working against me. Now they're little springboards. And now I'm on my way. Each time a little trigger comes up or a little challenge comes up, I go, great. The upgrade is right on the other side of me facing this and getting involved in this actively and curiously. So I jump into it now. And so that's what I mean. Pain can become a launching pad but we have to get curious about it and be willing to discover something new for ourselves about it and within it. And then those things lead to an inevitable transformation. We transform within ourselves. I transformed in myself so many times over that it's in some ways automatic. And then there's also those places where, I hit up those things where, oh, okay, I got to willfully decide to step into my other shoes today, maybe kick my shoes off for a bit, touch the ground, give myself a new experience, be willing to face. And the transformation isn't always this, sublime, glory to God and light all over the place, Steven Spielberg. It's a shift within myself to be willing. Just be willing to show up. That's one of the biggest lessons I've learned. If I want the life that I want, all I have to do is show up. God's already given me the footsteps, already planned the people, I believe. That's my belief. Yeah. And my experience shows me that it's a really creative, clever series of coincidental experiences. People come into our lives when we're ready. And sometimes before we're ready to push us and kick us over the edge a little bit, but we're ready for that too, because we set that up. So that transformation then becomes like that. That's the moment where we've left the running away from, and now we're actively engaged. Our energy is congruent in that place of running towards something. And it's not a mistake. This didn't happen by magic. This happened because ultimately we've all chosen that. So I invite each of you in your lives today to think about a pain that's happening in your life. It can be a hangnail that you keep catching in your pocket as you go to get your keys. It doesn't have to be a huge dramatic pain. It can be something you recurrently see in the world that causes you agita and angst, because there's plenty of that too. Pick your poison. It might be a story about yourself that you keep bumping into. Maybe it's the extra 10 pounds you're carrying. You go, I don't want that. Anything, bit of self-judgment. Maybe it's a person in your life that you find yourself detesting, right? You could say one word and everybody would have an immediate response to it. So there's that. We all have something. The point is, we all have something. So I invite you to pick yours today as we continue this little exploration together. Because I'm going to talk about some of the traps that we fall into, why we stay over here pain motivated. And they're simple traps. They're very human traps. And we all get very good at them because we need to survive. We do them automatically as an act of survival. And we're also taught them because, people who love us want to help us get along, but don't always have the capacity themselves to hold the kind of space that we need. So I invite you to be vulnerable within yourself. You don't have to share any of it. I just want you to be willing to, within your own experience, as I'm talking here, just think about a pain in your life. So the first trap with our pain is we normalize it. It's not that bad. For me, it was, I just have a bad back. Quick rationalization helps me emotionally and mentally wrap myself around how powerless I feel because my back hurts so bad. I can't get up and use the bathroom. I got to scoot around on my butt. I can't use the stairs. I can't walk. And I'm in pain. And it's lightening up my body. It sucks. I just have a bad back. I've got to ride it through. I normalized it. I accepted it as a part of my life. And that's the second thing. It soaks into what we normalize, soaks into our identity. We identify with that pain as a permanent part of our lives. It doesn't have to be physical. It can be emotional pain. It can be mental pain. It can be a view of ourselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I suck at that. We all have those things, but that's an identity statement. I am. That's where we become a victim to the circumstance of our pain. When that pain is there, we are powerless. When that pain's not there, we're still powerless. We're just not in pain. So we leave it alone. That's the normalizing thing. So good. Is it? Is it really? That's up to you. If you're comfortable with it, that's your call. And then after we identify, we shift our identity We make excuses, rationalizations. It's just the way it is. I can't do that. We accept the boundary that our pain has set up for us, that we've established as a relationship with our pain, with our lives. And on the spiritual level, that's an acceptance to the compromise. It leads to eventual longing and protracted periods of suffering. For my protracted periods of suffering, it became eventually I had to stop working. I would work a few hours, my back would go out, and I'd be in bed for 3 weeks. Try to make a living on that. I couldn't, so I shifted my life. I did other things. And it's not always a damnable, nothing good can happen thing, right? Lots of good things happened in my life while I was in pain. Lots of good things. People came in my lives. My life wasn't this big woe is me story. And I knew I was not living from a place of purpose. I wasn't doing what I really wanted to do in my life. I wasn't living at the quality and intensity of living that I know I'm driven to do. And so for me, that's why I say that that's the difference. That's the line in the sand. I wasn't living the quality of life I wanted. I was suffering. And sometimes the suffering looked like laughing when I wanted to cry, or hiding my emotions, or avoiding people, avoiding situations. My life shrank. Even though there were really good people in my life, I was compromised severely for it. And so I was hungry for more. I was disconnected from my purpose. I had a loss of resilience. It wore me down. And each moment that trigger hit, it was like another mountain sat on me. It's less possible and less possible. I'm never going to get there. And ultimately, I had a diminished ability to feel. I just cared less because it hurt too much to care. I dreamed less because it hurt too much to dream. So that was part of my experience. And many, many other things in there as well. But I only have a few minutes here left to talk about this. So these are the loops. These become the traps that keep us living that loop. And thankfully, there are those glass ceiling moments where we can break through, where those breakthroughs are possible, where they're accessible to us, where we're ready, we're primed. These moments of clarity are our higher awareness, where we perceive that, as my good friend David Thunder says, pain is a liar. Because we get a glimpse of the lie, because we see something else is possible for us. Each of you has had a moment like that you can think about now and relate to. Each of you will have another moment like that, wherever pain is happening, whether it's the hangnail or something bigger, a glass ceiling moment. Maybe that's today. Maybe that's this moment. Maybe it's in a few hours when some of this settles in. Some moment there's going to be your spark, your soul is going to say, yeah, I am ready. I am ready for the upgrade. He's right. That guy was right. I do have an upgrade available for me today. So pain can be our gatekeeper, or it can be our informant. How does that happen? You got to get curious. And so here's the bridge. The bridge, as I said before, salience, aware, intelligent connection to our purpose and our actions. Autopilot is off. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And how am I doing it? What energy am I doing it with? Then we're curious. We challenge our narrative, the story I have about myself, the story you have about yourselves, the story I have about you, the story you have about me, that goes in all directions. The story about corporate policy in America, whatever, pick your direction. We all have ideas. We all have narratives. We all have stories that are limiting and aren't necessarily true. We also have stories that are empowering, falsely empowering. We can prop ourselves up on stick men too. And where we're doing that can hurt as well, because that's not a solid foundation, because we're lying to ourselves. So we want to expose a lie. We do that by getting curious, exposing our narratives, and just being willing to look, study, and listen. Reimagine our identity. Maybe I'm not a victim to this. Maybe my back hurts right now, but maybe I can do something about it. Maybe it's waiting until the right person comes along. Maybe it's being willing to endure and not give up hope. Maybe it's reclaiming one piece of what I've given away, because the solution doesn't always come at once. Sometimes it comes in pieces, and we don't always get this, get control over the timeline of that. But there's some piece available to you around your pain today. Maybe it's hope. Maybe it's willingness. Maybe it's self-care, upgrading your self-care. Take a nap, eat a little better food, drink more water, whatever. There's an upgrade available to you, and you can have it. It's simple. It's just making a new choice. Then discovery. Enter an intelligent period of feedback and adjust in your life. Try it out by drinking more water. What happens when you drink more water? Because you can, oh, I'm going to drink more water. You might tell yourself you're drinking more water, but are you? Like, you get some real evidence of your life, what's going on. Am I really doing the things that say I'm doing? Or am I just bullshitting myself? Right? Because I've done plenty of that. So we need to get the feedback. And sometimes the pain is that feedback. How my back hurts. Well, what did I just do? Well, what did I not do? Right? You know, now I know after working with David Thunder and many others, I have so many tools in my tool bag, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, that whenever pain shows up in my life at any level, I have a tool to apply. And it's not an unsurmountable number of tools. It's a manageable number of tools. So I'm not powerless. My boat has oars and a sail and a rudder and wind. I'm good. Whenever that happens, I'm not powerless anymore. And that's a huge identity shift that I've made. That's the transformation speaking. Because I've learned these things, I've built evidence around them through trial and error, discovery, and proof. And the transformation is I can now access, no matter what's happening in my life, I can access my spark, my abundant, eager joy for life. I see something for myself. My whole big goal, I can see it on the horizon, and it's fun. But I'm also doing it right now, hopefully, inspiring you to look at being excited about your life, not as a theoretical, yes, all life is precious, all life is good. That's true, but soaking the feeling of that in. Think about your best friends or your bestie. How do you feel about them? Your heart probably gushes. Oh, they're so cool. Even when they're just, you know, the jerky side of them comes out, I still love them. They're still amazing. And you know what? They love me, not despite of who I am, but because of who I am, who they see me to be. They see that greater part too, that sometimes I don't see. That feeling. Access that feeling for yourself. And that's a good place to start with transformation. That's a good place to bypass the lie. It's a shortcut. Because that's what it's all about too. Like, shortcut life. Find the life hack. Get that change quickly, because you don't have to wait forever. It doesn't have to take a long time. It has to take some time. But your willingness, the energy you put into it matters. So reframe. You can reframe at any moment. Pain can be a moment of curiosity and go, oh, what's happening here now? And if you need an energetic shift, that's where we enter into the ability to live purposefully. It's a shift of our energy. And there are absolute, repeatable, measurable ways to do that. I hope I've given you a pretty good overview of them.